Close your eyes for a moment. Forget the room, the noise, the plans waiting for you. Just feel the space behind your thoughts, that quiet awareness watching everything happen. Now imagine this. What if the world you see every day isn't showing you reality at all, but only what it wants you to believe? What if every coincidence, every delay, every familiar pattern is part of something observing you just as closely? The mirror of reality hides a truth you were never supposed to see, and once you glimpse it, nothing around you will look the same again. You follow the steps everyone told you would work. You make the calls, say the right words, keep your tone calm, stay polite. You visualize the outcome, you stay patient. And still, the situation tilts sideways. Something breaks, someone withdraws, the door you were sure would open quietly locks itself. It's almost comical. You do everything right, yet life insists on sending you the opposite of what you intended. That moment, the shock between expectation and outcome, is where reality whispers something most people never hear. Because we've been trained to look for logic, not pattern. We search for causes that make sense to the mind, not signals that speak to something deeper. When things don't align, you call it bad luck, miscommunication, or timing. But what if it's feedback? What if reality is not punishing you? It's showing you where your inner map doesn't match the actual terrain. Notice what happens in your body when the unexpected hits. That tightening in the chest, the heat behind your face, the small flicker of resistance. Those sensations aren't random, they're your first trace of data. The nervous system records the moment reality contradicts your belief. It's like static between two frequencies trying to align, what you assume is true and what the world actually mirrors back. Now pause for a second. Picture the last time you felt blindsided by life. Maybe it was a conversation that turned in a way you didn't predict, or a project that collapsed just when it was supposed to take off. Replay that instant in slow motion, not the event, but your micro-reaction to it. That micro-reaction is your signal. It tells you what part of your internal world reality just contradicted, and that contradiction is gold. It shows you where you're broadcasting one frequency and believing you're sending another. Here's where it gets subtle. Your actions are visible, but your baseline vibration, your unconscious expectation, isn't. You might smile through a negotiation, but if your core state carries tension, the field around you will read that before any word leaves your mouth. It's not mystical, it's coherence. Systems synchronize to the dominant signal, not the loudest voice. The world responds to what's most energetically consistent in you, not what's most polished. Think of it like tuning forks. Strike one, and another of the same frequency begins to hum across the room. That's resonance. Your thoughts, emotions, and bodily states are all small forks vibrating in space. When one is slightly off, the sound that comes back from the world also wobbles. So when the outcome surprises you, it's often because you've been listening to the wrong tone inside yourself, the one you didn't know was playing. Here's a quiet experiment. For the next 24 hours, whenever something doesn't go your way, resist the impulse to fix or analyze it. Instead, just feel your internal alignment at that moment. Where does your energy drop? What belief silently fills the gap? Don't label it positive or negative. Just note the frequency. That's the pattern the world just mirrored back. And when you observe it without judgment, you break the old reflex, because most people respond to misalignment by tightening, trying to reassert control. But the universe doesn't answer control. It answers coherence. When your inner signal stabilizes, events begin to reorganize around it naturally, like iron filings around a magnetic field. This is where the paradox begins to unfold. Reality isn't ignoring you when it delivers the opposite of what you expect. It's guiding you toward the place where your internal state still contradicts your external aim. It's not personal, it's calibration. Every wrong result is a diagnostic, a way the mirror tells you this isn't quite your true frequency yet. And if you start listening in that way, even the unwanted outcomes become instructional. They stop being threats and start becoming instruments, tools tuning you toward clearer resonance. Because the world doesn't rebel against your intention out of cruelty, it simply reflects the hidden tension between what you think you're sending and what you're truly emanating. The strange twist is that As you learn to read those mismatched moments, you begin to see another layer beneath the surface, a layer that shows how thought, emotion, and matter quietly converse beneath language. And that's where the next realization begins to shimmer, the subtle misalignment between what you think and what the world reflects. There's a strange moment that happens when life begins to echo something you never consciously thought. You plan for peace, but conflict arises. You decide to trust, and suddenly someone betrays that trust. You visualize abundance, yet scarcity keeps sneaking in through the back door. It feels unfair, almost absurd, as if reality has misheard you. But what if the problem isn't the message, but the transmitter? You see, thought isn't a single note, it's a chord. There's the surface thought, the one you speak in your mind, and then there's the undertone, the feeling tone that rides beneath it. Most people believe their conscious mind sets the direction, but it's the emotional frequency underneath that actually steers the signal. Reality doesn't respond to the words in your head, it responds to the resonance behind them. Imagine a compass slightly off by a single degree. At first, the misalignment seems meaningless. The path still looks straight, but travel long enough and you end up in an entirely different landscape. That's how most people live, with tiny, consistent misalignments between what they think they're thinking and what they're actually broadcasting. They declare confidence while quietly expecting rejection. They affirm clarity while secretly fearing confusion. They speak of love while carrying the tension of being unseen. And the world, ever faithful to coherence, reflects the deeper tone, not the surface sentence. To see this in action, you only need to watch your own body. The body doesn't lie. It's the real-time translator between your mind and the field around you. When you say, "I'm fine," but your shoulders tighten, the signal you send is not peace, it's contraction. When you tell yourself, "I trust this process," but your breath shortens, the field hears hesitation. That's why two people can say the same affirmation and get entirely different outcomes. One vibrates in congruence, the other in contradiction. Try something right now. Think of a desire you've been holding, something you've wanted for a while but that still hasn't unfolded. Now speak it in your mind, slowly, as if telling it to a friend. As you do, scan your internal space. Do you feel an open expansion or a subtle tightening somewhere? The stomach, the jaw, the throat. That tiny contraction is the misalignment. It's not failure, it's feedback. It shows where part of you still disbelieves the thought you're trying to project. This is the hidden architecture of reality feedback. Thought and emotion must agree before the mirror responds clearly. When they conflict, the reflection becomes distorted, a kind of emotional double exposure. The world shows you both frequencies at once, the desire and the doubt, the claim and the contradiction. That's why results often look mixed. You're not being punished, you're being measured for coherence. If you want to understand how it operates, look at relationships. You can say all the right words, play the role perfectly, express affection, but if there's a thin layer of fear humming underneath, people sense it instantly, even if they can't name it. It leaks through micro-expressions, timing, pauses, the rhythm of your voice. And because human interaction is a form of energetic resonance, the other person unconsciously mirrors the tone you're unaware of sending. So when they pull away, it's not rejection, it's synchronization to your hidden state. This subtle misalignment is not a flaw. It's a compass pointing toward your unintegrated truth. Each moment of contradiction is an invitation to refine your signal. Instead of trying to think better, the deeper work is to feel cleaner, to bring your nervous system into the same rhythm as your intention. You don't fix misalignment by adding new thoughts. You resolve it by releasing the resistance that divides them. Here's a small way to begin. The next time something feels off, don't rush to change your mindset. Just breathe and feel what's being mirrored. Ask quietly, what part of me doesn't believe this yet? Don't analyze, sense it. You'll notice the body softens a little as the question lands. That softening is realignment beginning, because once the body agrees, thought stops echoing against the world and starts conversing with it. When this alignment deepens, the texture of your reality subtly changes. The same external situations may still occur, but they no longer feel adversarial. They feel responsive. The feedback loop becomes visible, like tracing the ripples of your own reflection in water. And as you follow those ripples inward, something more intricate begins to emerge. A recognition that the mistakes of the world are not random at all, but guided by an invisible precision, a mechanism that keeps tuning you toward inner coherence. And that leads you straight into the next layer. The invisible mistake almost everyone makes without realizing. There's a quiet error almost every human repeats, not because of ignorance, but because of habit, so old it's invisible. We think we're seeing the world. We think the eyes, the mind, and the senses deliver truth directly. But what actually happens is more subtle. We don't observe reality as it is. We observe reality as we expect it to be. It begins in the smallest, most ordinary moments. You walk into a room and instantly predict how it will feel. You meet someone new and unconsciously decide who they are before they speak. You anticipate how your day will unfold, and then, almost obediently, the day fulfills your prophecy. That's the mistake. Mistaking expectation for perception. You're not seeing what is. You're seeing the echo of what you already believe. The brain, elegant and efficient, filters out more than 99% of incoming sensory data. It must, otherwise consciousness would drown in noise. So it builds shortcuts, mental templates of what reality should look like. These templates are sculpted by repetition. The more often you feel or think something, the deeper that neural groove becomes. Eventually, you stop checking the actual world and start reading from memory. Life turns into a projection of your familiar conclusions. This invisible automation creates a strange loop. You react not to events, but to your interpretations of them, and then those interpretations reinforce the very filters that created them. You see rudeness where there's uncertainty, distance where there's fatigue, threat where there's simple change. And because your perception changes your physiological state, heart rate, muscle tone, voice, your environment mirrors that state right back to you. It's a feedback trap so seamless it feels like truth. The invisible mistake then is not misjudgment, it's unconscious repetition. You believe you're observing the world, but you're actually observing your conditioning. That's why similar problems keep reappearing under new names. Different faces, same emotional geometry. Life patiently mirrors what you haven't yet noticed in yourself. Try catching it in real time. The next time someone says something that irritates you, pause for half a breath before reacting. Feel the exact spot where the irritation forms, maybe a tightening in the stomach, a quick flush in the neck. Now ask yourself, what expectation just got violated? You'll often find it's not about the words spoken, but about the picture you already had of how things should go. That microsecond of awareness exposes the machinery behind perception, the silent projector you carry everywhere. There's another layer to this. Because the mind dislikes uncertainty, it prefers a predictable world, even a painful one, to a truly unknown one. So it unconsciously selects experiences that confirm what it already believes. If you secretly feel undeserving, you'll unconsciously gravitate toward situations that validate that feeling. It's not punishment, it's neurological coherence. The brain prefers familiar suffering to unfamiliar freedom because the former doesn't threaten identity. This is why transformation feels uncomfortable. It forces the nervous system to process information that doesn't match the old model. It's like light entering a dark room, at first blinding, then clarifying. The discomfort isn't danger, it's the body recalibrating to a larger frame of reality. And if you can stay present through that discomfort, something extraordinary happens. The filters thin. You begin to see again, not just recognize. What makes this mistake so insidious is that it hides under the illusion of intelligence. You tell yourself, I know how things work. You call it experience, pattern recognition, maturity. And while those are useful, they're also prisons when unexamined. Every assumption, no matter how accurate, is still a lens. The moment you mistake the lens for the landscape, you lose the ability to perceive what's new. There's a subtle practice that starts to reverse it. When you enter any situation, a conversation, a meeting, even a routine task, Silently whisper to yourself, "I might not know what this is yet." Feel how those words create space. Suddenly, details sharpen. You notice tone, rhythm, the small hesitations in speech. You sense the field around people rather than just their outline. That simple statement suspends the old filter long enough for fresh data to arrive. It's a micro reset for perception. And the more often you do this, the more the outer world begins to behave differently. Not because it's changing, but because your observation is finally becoming real again, direct, unclouded, curious. You stop projecting and start witnessing. And witnessing is magnetic. It stabilizes the field around you, allowing reality to reveal subtler layers you couldn't access through mental analysis alone. As this awareness deepens, another discovery quietly surfaces, that your attention itself leaves a trace, a kind of energetic fingerprint on the world around you. The more you watch, the more it responds. What you focus on doesn't just grow. It organizes, as if listening to your gaze. And that opens the next door. The trail your attention leaves on the field around you. Attention is not invisible. It only looks that way because we mistake awareness for thought. But attention in its pure form is a force, subtle, directional, and measurable in its effects. Every time you look at something, you leave an imprint, a small disturbance in the invisible fabric around you. The world may appear static, but the field through which perception flows is fluid, responsive, and your gaze, physical or mental, moves through it like wind shaping dunes. Consider this. When you walk into a room where an argument just happened, even if no one speaks, you feel it. The air carries a kind of residue, a heaviness, a static vibration. That's not imagination. It's coherence left behind by attention charged with emotion. Human energy, concentrated through focus, organizes space. Every thought you feed and every emotion you sustain leaves a subtle trail in the field, and that trail interacts with others, forming invisible weather patterns of mood, meaning, and possibility. Neuroscience gives a small window into this. Studies on attentional bias show that what you notice literally alters neural pathways, reshaping what you can notice next. It's like carving grooves into the lens of perception. But if the brain rewires internally through focus, why would the outer field, the electromagnetic and informational web that links all living systems, be immune? It isn't. Observation modulates resonance. The more precisely you observe something, the more the surrounding environment aligns with that pattern of awareness. You've experienced this countless times. When you fixate on a worry, you begin to see evidence of it everywhere. People mention similar fears. News headlines echo it. Conversations magnetize around it. It's as though the world starts whispering back your private thoughts in public language. That's the trail your attention leaves, a resonance field that attracts matching frequencies. It's not mystical causation, it's informational coherence. The nervous system and the outer world synchronize like coupled oscillators, two metronomes on the same surface gradually matching rhythm. The same happens in reverse. When you place gentle, steady attention on something that nourishes you, not forced positivity, but quiet appreciation, the field around you becomes coherent. People feel safer near you without knowing why. Events unfold with fewer distortions. The outer world stops behaving like a test and begins behaving like a conversation. Attention is the syntax of that dialogue. Here's a small observation exercise. For the next minute, choose a single object near you, a cup, a leaf, the shadow on the wall. Look at it without naming it. Don't analyze or judge it. Just feel what it feels like to see without commentary. Notice how the air between you and the object becomes subtly alive, as if awareness itself thickened. That quiet density is the trace of pure attention, unbroken, unfiltered. When you train yourself to inhabit that kind of seeing, you start to sense that everything you focus on carries part of your signature afterward. The implications are enormous. Every room you leave behind, every interaction, every silent moment of fixation contributes to an unseen topography. Some spaces feel heavy not because of architecture, but because of accumulated focus, the emotional fingerprints of countless moments of unconscious observation. Likewise, a person who practices clear, grounded attention emits an atmosphere that feels fresh, stabilizing, coherent. People call it presence, but what they're actually feeling is the harmony of a mind whose trail of attention is clean. And attention doesn't just move outward, it loops back. The field you impress with your focus also feeds data back into your perception. This creates a living circuit. What you attend to shapes the field, and the field subtly reshapes you. That's why long-term fixation on fear or judgment alters the body itself, posture, voice, chemistry. The organism calibrates to the field it continually generates. In this sense, attention is both the sculptor and the clay. This feedback can be consciously harnessed. Instead of letting attention scatter or fixate in anxiety, you can choose to cultivate stillness within perception, to let awareness rest without grasping. In that neutrality, the field reorganizes around simplicity. Interactions become clearer. Coincidences start to cluster. Not because you're manifesting in the popular sense, but because coherence always seeks coherence. The cleaner your attention, the cleaner your reality echo. Yet, here lies the quiet paradox. For most people, attention operates on autopilot, jumping between distractions, leaking energy into unconscious loops. And when it does, the trail it leaves becomes tangled, generating static that clouds perception. That static is not random, it's a sign. It's the world subtly signaling that something in your field is out of alignment, that awareness has drifted away from presence. These repeating signs, the small irritations, odd coincidences, recurring patterns, are not coincidences at all. They're feedback, reflections from the field you're unconsciously shaping every moment. You ignore them because they seem insignificant. But those tiny repetitions are the first ripples of your own attention echoing back, the early signals that reality uses to guide you home. And those signals, those everyday murmurs you overlook, lead directly to what's next. The signs you ignore every single day, they appear in silence, too ordinary to feel sacred, too small to seem significant. The subtle tension before a conversation, the way a song repeats in the background just as a certain thought crosses your mind, the mild discomfort when you agree to something you don't really want. These are the signs reality leaves for you daily, not as warnings but as markers of coherence, clues pointing toward or away from alignment. Yet most people pass them by, lost in the hum of routine, convinced that meaning only hides in dramatic events. But the world doesn't scream, it murmurs. The language of feedback is quiet, texture, timing, sensation, repetition. Every small deviation in your emotional temperature is a data point. Each recurring situation is a sentence in an ongoing dialogue between your consciousness and the field that surrounds you. You're not being punished when life repeats itself. You're being invited to notice what your awareness has skipped. Think of your day as a constant stream of mirrored signals. When you wake already anxious, the phone pings with a tense message. When you breathe calmly before leaving home, traffic seems to move differently. Not miraculously, but in subtle rhythm with your state. The correspondence is continuous, but the mind, trained to divide inner and outer, misses it. It calls coincidence what is, in fact, feedback. The pattern is there long before you name it. There's a particular kind of sign that's especially easy to dismiss, the small discomfort that repeats. The co-worker who always interrupts, the email you keep delaying, the object in your house that breaks again and again. These aren't random annoyances, they're pressure points in your field. The interruption might mirror your difficulty in holding boundaries. The delayed email might reflect resistance to clarity. The breaking object might even echo a part of you that feels unsupported. The world externalizes your microstates so you can finally see them. And yet, observation alone isn't enough. It must be embodied. The next time you notice a small discomfort, pause and feel your body before reacting. Notice where the unease settles, the throat, the solar plexus, the hands. That location is your signal receiver. It tells you which part of your system is out of coherence. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What does this tension want me to see?" In that question, attention stops being defensive and becomes investigative. It's almost as if the universe writes in invisible ink, and emotion is the heat that makes the letters appear. When you feel irritation or fatigue, reality is underlining something, not to scold, but to highlight where energy leaks. These signals often repeat because repetition is the only language dense enough to pierce human distraction. Life will whisper, then nudge, then repeat louder, until recognition dissolves resistance. Patterns are the footprints of consciousness. Notice how certain dynamics loop through your life. The friend who always needs saving, the sudden obstacles whenever you approach success, the opportunities that vanish the moment you doubt them. These are mirrors, not traps. They arise to map your unseen frequency, to show you what you've been broadcasting unconsciously. The moment you see the pattern without judgment, it begins to lose charge. Awareness unwinds the loop. Even the environment plays a role in this feedback conversation. Spaces hold memory. The room that feels heavy, the corner that seems unusually still, they reflect the residue of attention accumulated there. When you clear a space or change how you occupy it, notice how your mood shifts. Reality doesn't just respond to thoughts, it responds to the quality of attention you bring into physical form. The way you walk through a room, the tone of your breath, the focus behind your gaze, all leave subtle imprints that the environment returns to you later, disguised as mood or chance. And sometimes, signs arrive through time, not space. A phrase you read weeks ago suddenly reappears. A dream seems to play out in waking life. The pattern is temporal, a delayed echo of your own observation. When you start noticing these recurrences, don't rush to decode them intellectually. Feel their rhythm. Ask, what is this timing telling me about where my focus has been? Because time itself bends around attention. The more you notice, the more feedback accelerates. At a certain depth, the realization becomes unsettling. The world is never silent. It's constantly mirroring your microsignals in form, sound, timing, and coincidence. You think you're walking through randomness, but in truth, you're walking through a field of living responses. Ignoring the signs doesn't make them disappear. It only pushes them into more intense forms until you finally acknowledge their message. When you begin to read these signals as communication rather than chaos, the quality of your attention changes. You stop taking discomfort personally and start interpreting it as calibration. Every repeated pattern becomes a teacher. Every small irritation becomes a compass needle pointing you toward coherence. And then, beneath this realization, another presence begins to emerge, something subtler than signs or synchronicities. A quiet, shaping influence that works even when you're not paying attention, organizing events, aligning probabilities, weaving outcomes without asking permission. You don't control it, but you can sense its movement. It's the hidden force that shapes your experiences, silently, continuously, and just beyond your usual perception. You wake up each morning believing you steer your life through choices, what to eat, what to say, what to plan next. Yet beneath the surface of those small decisions, another current moves, silent, ancient, impersonal. It doesn't ask for consent, and it doesn't wait for understanding. It simply organizes experience according to laws most of us never learn to see. This hidden force is not mystical, though it often feels that way. It's the architecture of resonance, the invisible intelligence that translates your internal state into external form. You can feel it working whenever life seems to line up without your interference. A chance encounter arrives at the perfect moment. A message appears with uncanny timing, or an event you didn't plan resolves a dilemma you didn't know how to fix. You call it coincidence or intuition. But underneath both lies a structure. Coherence seeking expression. The same force that pulls galaxies into spirals and electrons into orbit is shaping the choreography of your daily moments. You're not outside it. You're an extension of it, like a wave unaware of the ocean it's made from. The mechanism is subtle. Every thought, emotion, and intention you generate radiates through your field, a complex network of electromagnetic, biochemical, and quantum information. This data doesn't vanish. It interacts with other fields, with other systems, weaving probability patterns that later manifest as circumstance. It's not thinking things into existence, it's entrainment. Systems fall into rhythm with the most coherent frequency available. When you're clear, the world synchronizes. When you're fragmented, it mirrors the static. The hidden force is coherence itself, the universal drive toward order and equilibrium. Left on its own, it aligns every system toward balance, just as water always seeks the lowest level. The trouble is that humans, through unconscious tension and mental noise, constantly distort that natural flow. We generate turbulence in the field through fear, judgment, or resistance, and then misinterpret the resulting chaos as random misfortune. The force never stops operating. It just reflects the dissonance we feed it. There's a reason some people seem to move through life with fluid timing. It's not luck or destiny. It's that their inner state creates minimal friction with this hidden intelligence. They act, then release. They observe, then trust the recalibration. Their nervous system communicates harmony to the environment, and the environment harmonizes back. They've stopped fighting the current, so it carries them. Try noticing the rhythm of your own life for a single day. Observe how events cluster. You'll find that moments of clarity attract synchronicity, while moments of confusion scatter results. The pattern is unmistakable once you tune to it. It's not moral or sentimental. It's physics of attention interacting with the field of order that underlies everything. You could call it divine, mathematical, or simply natural. The name doesn't matter. What matters is that you're part of it, whether you acknowledge it or not. There's also a protective aspect to this force. When your energy is misaligned with something you think you want, the system generates resistance, delays, breakdowns, misfires. It's not rejection, it's regulation. The field refuses to sustain incoherence. What looks like failure is often the force protecting you from amplifying contradiction. It redirects energy toward what's truly resonant, even if your conscious mind calls it loss. That's why the most painful detours often carry a strange precision when seen later. The intelligence beneath them never stopped optimizing for harmony. You can sense this field directly through attention. When you soften your focus and expand awareness beyond the immediate task, you start to feel a texture behind events, a quiet pulse of coordination. You notice how one conversation leads to another, how emotion precedes circumstance, how everything seems to lean toward equilibrium when you stop interfering. That's the hidden force moving through form, rearranging probabilities in real time. The irony is that the less you try to control it, the more clearly it reveals itself. Control compresses the field. Observation opens it. That's why surrender isn't weakness, it's conductivity. By releasing the compulsion to dictate every outcome, you allow coherence to find its own path through you. The intelligence behind life is always greater than the one trying to manage it. And still, even knowing this, the mind struggles. It wants ownership of creation, proof of cause and effect. But this force operates too fluidly for linear thinking to grasp. It doesn't move in steps, it moves in waves. And these waves don't just shape your life individually. They intersect with others, blending fields, merging patterns. You are constantly co-creating within a vast ecosystem of frequencies. Your field is never isolated. That realization brings a new awareness that you are not the sole author of your experiences. Other influences, other minds, other frequencies interact with yours in the same living fabric. You may call them collective fields, ancestral patterns, or simply other people's attention. Whatever their name, they share the same space you do. And once you begin to sense their presence, a humbler, wider truth unfolds, that you're not the only one creating your life. It begins as a quiet unease, the realization that your intentions don't always behave as expected. You set clear goals, visualize, align your mindset, and yet outcomes sometimes arrive wearing someone else's fingerprints. A conversation shifts direction, an opportunity bends into another shape, or an emotion you thought was yours alone feels amplified by unseen sources. That's the first glimpse into a larger architecture. You are not the sole creator of your life. You are a participant in a vast, co-creative field. This awareness can be disorienting at first. For years, you've been told that your thoughts shape your reality, that you hold the pen. That belief is blueprint. But the truth is more intricate. Your consciousness doesn't create in isolation. It interacts. Every thought you emit, every feeling you broadcast, meets other frequencies: human, environmental, collective. These intersections form interference patterns, ripples overlapping in the same water. The resulting shape, your lived experience, is a composition, not a solo performance. Think of walking into a crowded room. Even before anyone speaks, you sense the atmosphere: excitement, tension, calm. That's a field built from the combined emotional states of everyone present. Your body responds immediately, adjusting breathing, tone, posture. You may believe you're making independent choices in that moment, but in reality, your nervous system is negotiating with the collective. It's synchronizing. The invisible dialogue between individual and group begins before any words are exchanged. This collective resonance extends far beyond physical spaces. Every interaction, whether digital or mental, carries a vibrational footprint. When you think of someone intensely, they often reach out. When a global event unfolds, you feel its echo in your own mood. This isn't metaphysical poetry. It's energetic contagion, the subtle web of coherence that binds living systems. Scientists call it emotional transmission or social entrainment. Mystics call it unity. Both point to the same fact. Your personal field is porous, constantly blending and recalibrating with the world's larger frequencies. Here's where humility becomes practical. You might set an intention with clarity, but if the collective field around you vibrates in contradiction, your signal doesn't vanish. It disperses, merging with stronger patterns. That's why, when you try to force manifestation from the mind alone, it feels like swimming against a current. Creation isn't domination, it's participation. You can't override the field, but you can harmonize with it. The moment you grasp this, frustration turns into curiosity. You start to sense how others' intentions, fears, and hopes intersect with your own. Life's apparent resistance becomes a mirror, showing not only your personal misalignment, but the shared frequency you're standing in. Maybe the delay in your project isn't sabotage, but synchronization, reality, waiting for collective conditions to stabilize before it can move. This understanding shifts how you approach conflict. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you begin to ask, "What shared vibration am I standing in right now?" A disagreement might reveal overlapping wounds rather than opposing wills. A partnership that falters might not be failure, but energetic divergence, two frequencies no longer resonating at the same tempo. The world's feedback stops being personal punishment and becomes a kind of harmonic communication. You start noticing it in nature too. The wind changes when you calm down. Animals approach when your mind grows quiet. Even technology, lights, devices, signals, seems to behave differently when your energy stabilizes. The field around you isn't passive, it's interactive. Every particle, every system responds to coherence. You're not commanding reality, you're in conversation with it, and the language is frequency. If this sounds abstract, watch how collective emotion shapes the physical world. When fear spreads through a society, markets fluctuate, accidents rise, people dream more vividly. When compassion surges, after a crisis, a moment of shared awe, creativity blooms, and coincidences multiply. You're woven into that global tide. Your nervous system, like an antenna, both receives and broadcasts. To believe you create alone is to ignore the ocean while staring at your own reflection. The challenge, then, is not to isolate your signal, but to tune it. The clearer your personal frequency, the more gracefully you interact with the collective field. You stop absorbing every vibration around you and begin influencing the field through coherence instead of reaction. It's not about building walls, it's about cultivating resonance strong enough to remain distinct yet fluid. And as you practice this, a deeper realization dawns that reality itself participates in this exchange. It's not just other minds or emotional atmospheres shaping your path. The environment, time, space, even probability, seems to respond as if aware of being observed. It's not metaphor, but mechanism. The field watches back. What you think you're observing might in truth be observing you first. And in that subtle reversal lies the next revelation, the moment when logic breaks and you begin to glimpse how reality adjusts to what you haven't yet noticed about yourself. It comes as a subtle fracture in understanding, not a grand awakening, but a small collapse in how you thought the world worked. You begin to notice that events don't simply unfold around you. They respond through you. The direction of cause and effect quietly flips. You're not just an observer of reality, you are being observed by it. The mirror looks back, and in that gaze, common logic loses its footing. At first, this realization feels impossible. Our culture trains us to believe in a one-way universe, observer here, world out there. You think, you act, the environment reacts. Simple. But then patterns begin to form that defy that neat order. You think of someone moments before they call. A problem dissolves the instant you stop trying to solve it. An opportunity appears exactly when you release the need for it. It's as if reality senses your internal shift and adjusts in real time. For a long time, you dismiss it as coincidence. But the precision of the timing begins to pierce through your skepticism. The world is too responsive, too alive, too synchronized with your attention to be random. Something else is happening, a feedback loop between consciousness and form. Observation itself isn't passive. It carries weight, intention, and pattern. It alters what it sees. Physics has already whispered this secret. Experiments in quantum mechanics have shown that observation changes outcomes, that particles behave differently when measured. Scientists frame it as data, the observer effect. But beneath the language of equations lies something profoundly intimate. The universe notices being noticed. What's true at the subatomic level may not end at that scale. You too are part of that experiment, observing and being observed simultaneously. This doesn't mean thought magically bends the physical world. It means awareness is woven into the structure of matter. The act of perceiving locks potential into pattern. What you bring your consciousness to begins to solidify. What you ignore dissolves into probability. In other words, life organizes itself around what you see as real. That's the quiet revelation that breaks common logic. The world is not an external machine running on blind mechanics, but a relational field, continually reading your state of being. You can sense this interaction most clearly in transitional moments, those pauses between action and outcome, the breath before you speak, the silence after you decide. There's a palpable hum there, a tension in space, like the universe waiting to see which version of you will show up next. When your inner state changes even slightly, reality seems to rearrange itself to match. People respond differently. The path ahead reshapes. Time bends softly. It's unsettling because it erases the comfortable distance between you and everything else. If reality adjusts to what you haven't yet noticed about yourself, then every unexamined thought, every unconscious emotion is already sculpting the future in the background. The unseen parts of you are busy editing your world while your conscious mind tries to catch up. That's why denial has such tangible consequences. When you refuse to acknowledge an emotion, fear, envy, resentment, it doesn't vanish, it projects. The world takes the unowned frequency and externalizes it as circumstance. You meet your own avoidance as people, events, or limitations. The system mirrors what you won't see, forcing recognition through reflection. This is not punishment. It's the intelligence of balance, the universe's way of restoring awareness to wholeness. Once you glimpse this mechanism, responsibility deepens, not in the moral sense, but in the energetic one. You realize that reality's feedback is instantaneous and precise. Your inner noise writes the script faster than your logic can read it. That's why clarity feels like magic. It reduces distortion in the field. When you think clearly, breathe fully, and observe without grasping, the external world calms, synchronizes, and aligns. You become a clear mirror, and reality has no choice but to reflect coherence. But here's the paradox. You can't control this interaction by effort. Trying to use the observer effect collapses it. The very attempt to manipulate reality keeps you trapped in separation, the idea that the observer and the observed are distinct. The secret is intimacy, not control. When you genuinely see something without agenda, a person, a fear, a moment, It transforms because the boundary between seer and seen dissolves. The system completes itself. And if this is true, if reality is conscious of your observation, then life isn't something happening to you or for you. It's happening with you, a synchronized dialogue between awareness and form. Every event, from the mundane to the miraculous, is a sentence in that ongoing conversation. The logic of cause and effect becomes relational, circular, participatory. Once you've tasted this, even briefly, ordinary perception can never fully return. You start to feel the hum of awareness behind all things, a vast intelligence echoing your own gaze. And through that hum, a new understanding begins to take shape, that the mirror of the world doesn't reflect your image at all, but your intention. It responds not to what you claim to want, but to what you truly are beneath performance and thought. At first glance, it seems that life mirrors your image, your actions, your personality, your choices. You imagine the world responding to what you do. But look closely, and you'll see the reflection behaves in ways the image cannot explain. You work hard, but receive little acknowledgement. You say the right words, yet conversations fall flat. You display confidence, but outcomes mirror your hidden doubt instead of your practiced poise. That's when the realization dawns. The mirror of reality isn't showing you your reflection, it's showing you your intention. Intention is not what you declare. It's what you mean beneath the declaration. It's the frequency of motive, the undercurrent of truth behind every gesture. You can act generous for recognition, speak kindly to control perception, chase success out of fear of insignificance. The surface looks clean, but the signal is distorted. Reality reads the distortion, not the costume. It listens to the energy, not the language. The mirror does not imitate the image, it translates the emission. You can't fake coherence. The universe responds to the vibration of what you are, not to the script of what you pretend to be. This is why someone who quietly trusts can move through chaos untouched, while another who performs optimism keeps attracting resistance. The field surrounding you is exquisitely sensitive to authenticity. It decodes intention like a scent, detecting the faintest trace of contradiction between what you claim and what you feel. You've experienced this with people. A friend says, "I'm happy for you," but something in their tone doesn't match. The words are fine, but the atmosphere tells another story. That same reading happens between you and life itself. Reality feels your tone, the emotional subtext behind your thoughts, and responds in kind. If your intention carries tension, outcomes echo that tightness. If it carries trust, events move in rhythm with ease. The deeper truth is that intention shapes coherence before action begins. It's like the seed blueprint determining how a tree will grow. You might decorate the branches, prune the leaves, even change the soil, but if the original pattern carries distortion, the form will always bend toward that hidden code. Most people try to change their lives at the branch level, rearranging habits and external moves, while the seed, the intention, stays untouched. The mirror cannot return a different reflection until the pattern itself shifts. To see your true intention, watch your body's response when you imagine a choice. The body never lies. It contracts when an intention is false, expands when it's aligned. A simple internal test: bring a goal to mind and feel your breath. Does it deepen or become shallow? If it tightens, the motive underneath isn't clean. Maybe the goal hides fear or performance. When the motive clears, the breath opens naturally, and the world tends to mirror that openness with synchrony. Here's the paradox that bends logic. You can't fix intention through willpower. The act of trying to purify a motive still carries the vibration of control. Instead, you bring awareness to the distortion without judgment. You see it, name it softly, let it unfold. The observation itself begins to harmonize the field, the way a note naturally resolves when allowed to vibrate freely. Clarity doesn't arrive through effort, but through transparency. Once your intention aligns, action becomes secondary. The field already begins to organize around your internal signature. Life stops confusing your appearance for your essence and starts resonating with the tone beneath your words. You start to notice a strange symmetry, fewer coincidences, more correspondences. The right people appear without force. The timing of events feels orchestrated, not manipulated. That's coherence in motion, the mirror adjusting to match the undistorted intention at its core. But this same mirror has another secret. It doesn't only reflect authenticity, it also exposes pattern, the deep inherited programs you were never encouraged to see. Beneath every conscious intention lies a hidden architecture, a set of internal codes shaping what you believe you deserve, what you expect, what you unconsciously summon. These codes act like filters, coloring every reflection you receive from reality. They are not punishment, they are maps. And when you finally look past the surface of intention into that hidden pattern itself, the mirror reveals the truth that was never clearly shown, the one that changes everything. There is a truth hidden in plain sight, so close, so consistent, that you stopped noticing it long ago. It moves quietly beneath every experience, beneath success and failure alike. It's not mystical, though it sounds that way when first spoken. The truth is that reality has never been showing you the world. It has only ever been showing you your pattern. Every situation, every relationship, every repetition you call coincidence, all of it is feedback, a reflection, not of what you want, but of what you unconsciously are. The mirror of life doesn't display your face, it displays your code. That code is made of your most persistent assumptions, the ones so deep you no longer know they're assumptions. They live in muscle tone, in tone of voice, in the reflexive, of course, that defines how you expect the world to behave. Most people spend their lives trying to fix the surface, the job, the partner, the schedule, the circumstance. But the pattern underneath stays untouched, humming the same rhythm that draws in matching experiences again and again. Change the players, change the setting, and somehow the same emotional geometry repeats. That's because the hidden architecture, the internal frequency, never shifts through external motion. It shifts only when it's seen clearly. Seeing it is not easy. The mind resists. It wants to preserve its image of control. It says, this keeps happening because of them, or because of luck, or because life is unfair. But each of those explanations is a way of staying blind to the one constant in every scene: you. The truth that was never clearly revealed is not that you create everything consciously. It's that you're in constant conversation with a reality that mirrors your most unexamined vibration. Imagine holding a tuning fork near a piano. The moment you strike the fork, the matching string inside the piano vibrates, though you never touched it. The sound you hear isn't created by effort. It's created by resonance. Life operates on the same principle. The events that arise around you aren't random. They're the strings that hum in sympathy with your own tone. Change the note you emit, and the music changes. Refuse to hear your own tone, and you call the resonance fate. The deeper layer of this truth is that the mirror has never been external. It's not the world testing you, it's your consciousness organizing experience to make itself visible. The universe is an instrument of self-recognition. What you see out there is your inner landscape projected into time and space so that you can finally see it. Every interaction is an X-ray of your unseen frequencies. Every disappointment, every delight, is a precise diagnostic, a way your own energy becomes visible through form. This is why the world keeps repeating lessons you swear you've already learned. You tell yourself you've moved on, you've evolved, yet the same theme returns in a new disguise. That's not failure. It's clarity deepening. Each recurrence strips another layer of justification away until you're forced to confront the core pattern itself, not the story, not the players, but the vibration that silently instructs reality how to behave around you. When you begin to see this, guilt dissolves. There's no punishment, only reflection. The field isn't judging you, it's translating you. Every unpleasant experience is not evidence of unworthiness, but data about coherence. It's life showing you where your signal is noisy, where intention and emotion don't match. Once you read it that way, resistance fades. You stop taking the mirror personally and start using it as feedback. The clarity that follows is unsettling, but liberating. You realize that the world has never lied to you. It has only ever been perfectly, mercilessly honest. It reveals not what you claim, but what you emit, and it does so with mathematical precision. When your vibration shifts even slightly, the entire field reorganizes to reflect the update. People change, timing changes, probability bends, not because you forced it, but because the mirror can only ever show the current pattern in its truest form. And yet, most were never encouraged to see this truth because it erases dependency. If everyone knew the world is a mirror of internal coherence, external control would lose its power. Systems that rely on fear and distraction would crumble. So the culture teaches distraction, noise instead of observation, effort instead of awareness. The truth remains hidden not by secrecy, but by our own unwillingness to be still enough to see it. But once you've seen it, even for a moment, something irreversible begins. You start to watch your reactions as reflections, not as facts. The boundary between me and world softens, and with that softening comes choice, not over circumstances, but over vibration. The mirror remains, but you no longer mistake the reflection for destiny. You start adjusting the tone within, knowing the outer world has no option but to harmonize. And in that recognition, that life's mirror reveals intention, pattern, and resonance rather than surface, another kind of freedom quietly appears, the freedom of conscious authorship. The moment you acknowledge that the world is your own frequency made visible, you reclaim the one power that can never be taken, the ability to refine your state. And from there, a new possibility opens, the choice that frees you from the hidden mirror altogether. The truth was never outside you. Reality has always been a mirror, not of what you wish for, but of what you radiate. Once you see that every experience is feedback, life stops being an obstacle course and becomes a conversation. You no longer chase control. You refine coherence. The world mirrors your state with perfect accuracy, and each moment invites a subtle calibration. Less noise, more truth, clearer signal. So here's your quiet challenge. Before you scroll away, write in the comments, "I see the mirror." It's a small declaration, but it marks that you made it here, that you saw what most never notice. And if this exploration stirred something real in you, let it continue. Choose one of the videos appearing on your screen now, follow the thread, deepen the dialogue. Because once you start seeing reality this way, the reflection never stops evolving with you.